Good afternoon and welcome to another segment of 360 Degrees to Success. I have my special guest who is also co-producer, co-director, and in charge of research for 360 Degrees Success, Jeffrey Deskovic. Jeff, thanks for coming in.
Always a pleasure.
Just a great friend, and has an amazing story that we're not going to get too much into his story because this is a subject that we want to touch on. But just real quickly, Jeff Deskovic was wrongfully convicted of a rape and murder that he wasn't even there for, coerced confession, and it took him 16 years to get out of prison. And here he is many years later, and now he's going to finish up law school next year.
Well, in May actually, yeah.
May next year.
Yeah,
and we met about just before you started law school.
That's right.
So that's why I said it earlier. It seemed like it was just yesterday, and it does to me.
I agree. Looking back on it, it kind of flew by. Although I have to say, as I mentioned to you earlier today, I felt and feel every day of it. It's only when you look back in hindsight. But
it is amazing. So Jeff got exonerated. He got a settlement. He could have easily just gone off into the sunset and lived in Bali or Bermuda or something. But he didn't do that. He wanted to go to law school. He wanted to help other people. He's got a foundation that does that, the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation. And in addition, he's very well in demand for speaking. He speaks to police academies and different events.
Law schools, community organizations, colleges. Kind of have message will travel. Sometimes by myself, other times panel discussions. Other times I help to put them together. So a wide array of settings. Listen, sometimes in front of judges, sometimes in front of lawyers, and on continuing legal education.
So Jeff, if somebody wants to book you for a speaking engagement and hire you, how can they get a hold of you?
Sure, they can email me through my website. It's Deskovic, DESKOVIC.org, and you can email me from there.
Great, sounds good. So what we're here to talk about today is prosecutorial misconduct. And Jeff was very instrumental in getting the bill signed late last year from Governor Cuomo to have a commission put together for prosecutorial misconduct. In addition, just here's one of the many books that Jeff is featured in, but Prosecutorial Stories. Bennett Gershman is a professor at Pace Law School, one of Jeff's professors, and Jeff's got mentioned in his book as well.
Sure. Professor Gershman is considered to be the country's leading expert, Jeff, on prosecutorial misconduct, and he has several books in print, this being the second one. And he mentions me in the book, and we're professor student, but we're also colleagues.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy. I met him a few times. So Jeff, why do we need a prosecutorial commission on prosecutorial misconduct?
Sure. So it's called the Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct. And we needed one because there was no oversight for prosecutors. Prosecutorial misconduct is a major cause of wrongful conviction. In fact, it's a commonality that runs through many of the wrongful conviction cases. Too common. Sure, with common tactics being withholding exculpatory evidence, not correcting perjured testimony, sometimes suborning perjury, threatening witnesses to take kids away if they don't give testimony, making improper arguments in closing, or closing arguments, or even in opening statements, introducing evidence that they've been told not to do. So with misconduct being a common cause of wrongful conviction, we needed a reform to address that. And so the prosecutors really had no oversight. So every profession, Jeff, this is what's kind of crazy. If you're a barber, and I came from the barber earlier today, there's, the barbers, there's like a board, and there's every profession has oversight, but there was nothing for prosecutors. So there was really nothing to restrain them from engaging in misconduct. The grievance committee is really for defense lawyers and commingling of funds and that kind of thing, nothing to do with prosecutorial misconduct, and so totally ineffective. So they face no civil penalties, and that was amplified by the fact that they have immunity, what's called prosecutorial immunity. So no matter how serious the misconduct is, if it happens after an arrest, you can't sue them. Which is crazy. And they don't. So you can't sue them. They have no oversight board, and they face no criminal penalties. So myself and the founder of the coalition group is called It Can Happen to You. So the founder is Bill Bastick, and it's a statewide coalition. I'm an advisory board member of it, and my nonprofit, the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation for Justice, we're part of that coalition. And so there was a 6-year fight to get this bill passed, from finding bill sponsors to getting other people to co-sponsor to adding organizations and individuals to the coalition to getting resolutions passed to getting memos of support. I mean, postcard campaigns, speaking engagements, you name it, we engaged in it
Right.
for 6 long years.
Wow.
And recently it got passed, and Governor Cuomo signed it into law. And so that's the first in the country, and it will take effect in January, pending the resolution of a couple of
Right,
things,
which we'll talk about in a
we're
little
going to
bit.
talk about
Right.
in a little bit. Yes.
And just to reiterate, or Jeff and I had spoken about this over the years as he was doing this, is for a prosecutor to make an error or a unintentional error. What is that called? Like trying to the terms. So,
Okay. So there's intentional misconduct, and then there's like an error. You make a mistake. There's a good faith error.
Good faith mistake, right?
Right.
No. This is not what this is about.
No,
at all.
absolutely not.
Right.
No. We're talking about clear-cut, intentional misconduct. Not an error, not a mistake, nothing like that. No.
So the bill was signed, and just recently, the Bar Association and I don't remember who else is trying to fight this.
Well,
And
it's
they're
not the
saying,
Bar Association. It's the New York State District Attorneys Association
yes.
of New York. Yes, they've they fought us every step of the way.
now they're claiming it's unconstitutional. They already have something in place, and this will take away from their doing their job effectively, which makes absolutely no sense logically.
No, it does not. So to bring everyone up to speed real quick, so they were fighting us like all 6 years. They fought us, from telling the legislators it's not necessary to testifying at the hearing when there was a legislative hearing held on it. And their latest and greatest tactic is now that it's been passed, they filed a lawsuit against it. And as you said, they're arguing that it's unconstitutional. They're arguing that there already is sufficient vehicles, that the bar association is sufficient, the grievance committee is sufficient, which it's not, because they were asked. One of our bill sponsors, Senator DeFrancisco, a Republican from upstate New York, number 2 in the Senate, they told him that it wasn't necessary, that there's prosecutors have been disciplined, so he asked them to give him a list. And they never came, and they said that they'd give it to him in a couple of weeks, and they never did give it to him. So they argue that, and then they argue, there's going to be a chilling effect. In other words, it's going to stop a prosecutor from doing their job. They're going to be too worried that they could be brought in front of the committee.
And is there a legitimate concern? Is that?
It's not, because first of all, we have to have confidence in the process that it'll be sorted out. So, for example, a civilian, so you and I can be sued in court. Right, it's possible we could be sued.
Anybody could bring a suit about anything.
On
but then,
anything, right? Yeah, but we got to trust the system, that the system will shake it out. Just like you and I could be arrested, right? But we got to rely on the court system. And do you think that we should decriminalize everything because it's possible a false charge could be hurled?
Okay.
I don't.
Right.
No, you cannot. So another argument they make is, speaking of the chilling argument, so police officers, they don't have this commission. They can be sued in court. And they're not prevented from doing their job. Forensic scientists aren't prevented from doing that, and these people could be sued.
Right.
And this is not even a lawsuit. This is being brought in front of in front of the committee. They could recommend censure to all the way up until removal of office. And so what it does is, just getting into the mechanics of it for a second. So complaints could be made anonymously, because no one files anything at the grievance committee because lawyers are worried about repercussions.
Right.
They're worried not just as to them, but as to their future clients. So that it addresses that. It would have subpoena power. So, the grievance committee does not have subpoena power. And removal from office is a recommendation for removal of office is a possibility. And it has picks from the governor and from the majority and minority leaders, both in the Senate and the state. So it'll be made up of some defense attorneys and either current or former.
Right. There's even something
prosecutors.
about bringing a neutral third party in that says in here,
Yes.
who's not an attorney, not a member of the bar, to kind of oversee it and engage in discussions, which is probably the most fair way to do it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. There likely will be 3 offices: one in Buffalo, one in Albany, and one in Manhattan, because it's a big state, and there'll be staff, and there'll be the members of the commission. The staff will do the investigation, and if and they'll present their findings to the commission. And if the commission thinks that there's enough there, then they change hats, and then the investigators become like the prosecutors, the commission members become the judges, and there's due process involved. The prosecutor can be represented there if he would like to be, he or she would like to be, and ultimately if they make a recommendation, then that would go to would ultimately go, because they could appeal that ruling. If it was like removal of office, for example, I mean, it could go to the Court of Appeals and ultimately end up on the governor's desk. So lots of checks and balances, lots of due process. But this is just to deter people who would engage in misconduct.
Now, there's so many stories. In fact, this subject, just on prosecutorial misconduct, we could probably do a series on it, which we may do.
Right.
It's probably a good idea because the word needs to get out there. But just to bring a case that's kind of that you've been working on most recently that I know about is John Juca.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
So
yes.
here's a perfect example. Here's somebody who was convicted of a murder. Mm-hmm. His murder conviction was overturned
after 14 years.
After 14 years. He's been in jail how long now?
No, he's been in for like 14
years. Okay.
Yes.
So each time he goes before, each time he goes for a hearing to get released on bail, pending a hearing because his conviction was overturned, because the prosecution still wants to convict him, they're keeping him in jail.
Right.
Which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So now it's an ego thing with the prosecutor, right?
Yeah.
And now it's not even ethical anymore.
Correct. They don't want to let it go. Yes, they're appealing. So the appellate division reversed the conviction on misconduct grounds. They said that the key witness who claimed that he didn't get a deal, it's now admitted he did get a deal. The appellate division ruled that the prosecutor knew that the witness had a deal in place, and that not only did she know and not correct the testimony, but then she aggravated it by arguing to the jury that he had no reason to lie. He was finally doing the right thing for once.
Right.
And also she got caught, and the appellate division overturned the conviction. And so, not wanting to acknowledge an error, they're appealing the decision to the Court of Appeals. And they're also threatening to retry him in case they lose. So in the meantime, he's he every so often he goes to court and he's asking for bail pending the
And it's not uncommon, right, for a judge to award bail
because
it's overturned. Okay.
It's very common, but this one judge, Judge Chun, is doing a terrible job, and he keeps referencing, well, the last time you went to trial, you were convicted. And that's the reason why the last time he went to trial, he was convicted, and the jury didn't know key information, and the verdict was infected by misconduct. So, but yet the prosecutor in that case, Anna Nicolazzi, nothing has ever happened to her.
Right. And here's a perfect example, right, of prosecutorial misconduct. And especially when, let's say his commission is in, and now he goes to trial and he gets exonerated, which he should, and all likelihood will, then they should be able to go after this prosecutor for just being like that, just because it's an ego thing for her.
Sure. Yes, for her. Yeah, but she brags. It's, she's 35-0.
Oh, yeah.
And she has a TV show called True Conviction, and she brags and this was her biggest case, so she's 35-0. So right there, just the fact of a prosecutor bragging about their win-loss record, right there shows you that they're not interested in being a minister of justice, which is what they're supposed to do.
Their record.
Yeah, exactly. You're supposed to do justice. That means convict the guilty while using lawfully gathered evidence, right? While staying within the rules, and dismiss a case if it's somebody's innocent. But she's not doing that.
That's not a thing. And you could be the best lawyer in the world, but if you're doing the right thing, then you go through a case, you may find something. Oh, wait a second, this person isn't guilty, or whatever the case may be.
That's right.
And you should be able to adjust and act. You have a higher fiduciary duty as an attorney to do that.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. So coming back to the commission. So we mentioned some of their arguments against the commission. So what I did one reason why we agreed to do the show today is that in connection with the lawsuit, the media is reporting that the pending the hearing that the headlines that they're doing are kind of misleading. So some of the headlines, like, oh, the commission is squashed, they're slowly killing it. So what's happened? That's not accurate. So what's happened is the District Attorneys Association has brought a civil suit to challenge the commission. So first of all, until the suit is resolved, nobody's going to be there's always going to be a point. It's not going to start working that until the suit is resolved. And the suit as a practical matter is not going to go ahead until these chapter amendments have been passed. So when Governor Cuomo signed the bill, so in New York we have a procedure called where you can sign legislation into law
Right.
with an agreement, an explicit agreement that I'm signing this now provisionally, that these other agreements that we've just made, where I'm going to change a few things, was going to be passed into law with the next session. That's called chapter amendments.
Okay.
So the commission in its form that it is now is going to change just a little bit. The
Yep.
substance will be the same, but we're just going to change the distribution of the picks and just a few other cosmetic things.
But doesn't
So
the
the
governor-
headlines are saying that they're slowly killing the bill,
Right.
or
That's
no,
what it
it's
looks
not.
like, right.
It's not. The governor is not backing. Is not that he signed it. He's not backing down off that. The bill sponsors are not, and we're not.
Does the governor have absolute power to push it through and then let them work out the details? Does he have that absolute power, or could he do that? Kind of like, for lack of a better example, a pardon type thing?
Well,
with
he
the
would
president?
have. Well, you mean generally, or in this
Yeah,
bill?
could the governor say, you know what, this is law, that's it, we're doing it, let's put the commission together, and now we'll start working on the details, and so you guys can fight back and forth about the different chapters, nuances, rather than them keep kicking the can down the road.
No, he could do that, but the thing is that the court is going to rule on the constitutionality and other objections that the District Attorneys Association is making. If the court's going to rule on the merits of that, it doesn't make sense for the court to do that as to the bill right now, the way it looks, when the bill is going to be is already been agreed to be changed a little bit. So why not have those changes passed, which is going to be in January, and then as to the new bill, if they want to continue with their lawsuit at that point, then just have the court rule on the merits of those arguments, which they're frivolous, but they have a right to the access to the court, so they can do that.
So you think ideally this will be signed into law officially in the
Well,
January?
it's already signed into law.
I mean,
It
as far
passed,
as
but the chapter
putting it
amendments.
together, right? As far as
Well, the chapter amendments will be passed in January, and
Okay.
then at that point the court will, probably the District Attorneys Association will keep going with their lawsuit. Right? They agreed to hold up with their lawsuit, to just like pause it, hold it in abeyance until the chapter amendments are passed. I think that they're going to resume their lawsuit after that,
Right.
Because no matter what, it doesn't matter what objections they're using, they just don't want to have oversight.
Absolutely.
So they're going to continue on with
Right.
their challenge. There'll be a ruling on the merits. We believe that the bill will in fact be upheld by the court. Then people will be, the commission will then be formed, and we'll get rolling, and then we'll be trying to spread the commission to other states.
I don't see it, and basically because probably I'm a little bit partial because of what the work you do and the work and the things that I've been involved with you over the years. But could you see if you were the district attorney, could you see anything on your side of what they're trying to? Is there anything legit as to what they're trying to fight at all? Can you see anything?
No,
if you
I
try
don't
to
see
look at the other
anything
side?
legit. No, I mean, again, I can tell you some more of their arguments. Another argument is that I remember a couple of prosecutors I knew. They told me, well, we're worried that there may be politically based charges filed at the commission. But again, that's not that. First of all, I don't think that that's going to happen on a widespread basis. Okay, and secondly, while that may happen in some instances, again, we have to trust the system, that the system will will cipher through all of that. There's a screening process. So that's not a reason not to have it. Let me ask you this, Jeff. Now, sometimes women claim to be raped, and they're not.
Right.
It's a false claim.
Correct.
Is that a reason, because somebody could be falsely charged with rape? Is that a reason why we should take that as a crime off the books? Let's just get rid of it just to prevent that?
No, absolutely
No, of course not. No,
Right.
because there are people who really are raped, and
Right.
there needs to be a protection and a punishment in place for people who would do that.
Not only that,
Same
no
thing with the
system is ever
commission.
100% anything anyway.
Right, exactly. If that's going to be the standard, then let's stop doing anything. I mean, people, wrongful convictions happen. I mean, the National Registry of Exonerations, which has the clearinghouse, they have all the information on exonerations. Their study from 1991 forward, always adding them. There's last I checked about a month ago. I just finished finals yesterday, so I know the numbers have gone up. But when I checked a month ago, 2,274 people from 1991 forward have been exonerated. So again, should we not? Maybe we shouldn't, Jeff. I think that we should stop having a justice system, and there should be no courts, because sometimes wrongful conviction will happen. There shouldn't be a court. You shouldn't be able to file a charge against anybody for anything because it could be false, could be politically motivated, Jeff. It's absurd.
Right,
It's
it
absurd.
is.
I'm saying this
It is.
tongue in cheek because you have to maintain order.
I agree.
But prosecutors don't want us to maintain order on them. Here's their answer. Look, prosecutorial misconduct is rare, which we know it's not.
It's not, unfortunately.
Right?
I thought it was before I met you.
Sure. To the extent that it happens, it's only happening by new prosecutors. So it's really errors.
That's not it.
Which is not it. When you look at a lot of cases reversed, it's
Because, like you said, errors don't matter. Innocent errors don't matter. It's the intentional, misconduct.
But the person, right, exactly right, and the personnel who've gotten caught in a lot of these cases, they're seasoned prosecutors. Then, to the extent the argument then is to the rare extent it happens, we can police our own.
Which is is one of their arguments.
One of their arguments. So the fox wants to be allowed to guard the hen house.
Right. Exactly. That makes sense.
And then they're saying, well, the grievance committee is enough, right? Which is it's not, because misconduct's out of hand. No, when's the last time a prosecutor has been held accountable there? Like on all these wrongful conviction cases, many of which were caused by prosecutorial misconduct, prosecutors weren't punished. Prosecutor in my case, didn't get a censure, didn't get a punishment at all, nothing. Then they're saying, well, misconduct happens, a reversal. The defendant could file an appeal and get the conviction reversed, and that's kind of a laughable thing because, first of all, most convictions that have misconduct in it are not reversed on that ground. Secondly, the courts they apply what's called harmless error analysis. So in other words, they look and see, well, even if misconduct happened, if you would have been convicted anyway, then we're not going to give you the reversal.
How could you say that, right?
Right, which is a false argument, but they apply it. That's the
Why
reason
not?
why that's
Yeah.
not. But then thirdly, that almost doesn't matter because if the court upheld prosecutorial misconduct in a criminal case, what their action would be to, if they found it not to be harmless, would be to reverse the conviction. That has nothing to do with holding the prosecutor accountable. There would still be no sanction, nothing that happened to them.
Right. Look, there has to be check and balances, and I just thought of a segue to that or something like similar. When you read briefs and memorandums of law, a lot of times the attorneys that are making that argument, they'll have bad case law in there. They're not going to tell you this. It was overturned. It was overruled, or that's not what that case says.
Correct.
And if you don't look and see that, you'll never know. Oh, wow, Smith versus Jones, it says right there. And I've done, as a litigation paralegal for many years, I learned that trick, and it was, from the other side. And it's fascinating to see that when you shepherdize cases and find these things out. So it's the same thing. It's, do your due diligence.
Correct. And the other thing I want to say, Jeff, is that honest prosecutors don't have anything to worry about. We're not out to get prosecutors. We're out to get prosecutors who engage in misconduct. That's it. So if you don't want to be brought in front of the committee, then don't engage in misconduct. It's kind of simple, actually.
And what's even more amazing in this realm of subject is New York, for example. There are penalties, and just like Jeff got a settlement because it was prosecutorial misconduct. But there are states where
there is no compensation.
There's no compensation. It's like, here you go. Here's, that's crazy.
It is, and that's another thing. Prosecutorial misconduct, it costs taxpayer a lot of money. A lot of these settlements are millions of dollars in compensation, and it should be. For being in prison, it should be.
Absolutely.
But wouldn't it be better that someone is not wrongfully convicted in the first place, that there was no prosecutorial misconduct, and therefore they didn't serve time in prison wrongfully, and therefore the taxpayers are not paying taxes on these lawsuits because the wrongful convictions aren't happening in the first place.
Absolutely. Jeff's foundation has also helped 3 people.
We've exonerated 2 people. We freed 7 people overall.
Okay.
But yeah, we've gotten people out. We've helped pass laws. I mean, other laws other than that one. So, not a bad accomplishment for an organization that's only been around for 5.5 years. I have a master's degree from John Jay College. Mercy College gave me the scholarship to get the bachelor's. I went to John Jay and I got the master's degree with my thesis written on wrongful conviction causes and reforms. And I formed the foundation. I was compensated. And after a while, Jeff, it really wasn't enough for me to be in the courtroom anymore, in the front row, watching the lawyer. I want to represent some of the people. So hence my foray into law school. And I'm going to graduate law school, God willing, in May. I take the bar in July. So, hopefully not too far off. I'll be a lawyer myself, and I'll be able to represent some of the people. So that's the dream. That's why I do this.
Here's something really great to close with. We got about 3 minutes left. Again, Jeff was convicted of a crime, a rape and murder he didn't commit. There was no DNA. He wasn't even there.
The DNA didn't match me. Yeah,
didn't match you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was convicted despite that.
And at his trial, he spoke to the judge, and he made a statement to the judge, which makes sense. And then the response from the judge is mind-boggling himself. So, Jeff, do you want to share that statement?
I do. So when I was wrongfully convicted, when I came to the sentencing hearing, I begged the judge to overturn the verdict. I referenced the DNA, which didn't match me, which was introduced at the trial to support what my argument was. And the judge said to me, maybe you are innocent. You said that on the record.
Right.
Maybe you are innocent. Right? You might think that would lead him to step up for justice and overturn the conviction, but instead, he took the easy, politically expedient way out, which was to sentence me to a term of imprisonment of 15 to life. As you know, as you mentioned already, I did 16 years. I lost 7 appeals. I got turned out for parole. Ultimately, I got further DNA testing, which the prosecutor had stopped me. Jeanine Pirro, the Westchester DA's office, they stopped me from getting further testing through the data bank when she left office. Her successor allowed me to have the testing, and it matched the actual perpetrator, so I was exonerated on actual innocence grounds. He was arrested and convicted. Just a last quick thought on the commission. The Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct is modeled after the Commission on Judicial Conduct. Which has been in existence for 40 years. So you mean to tell me this is good enough for the judges,
but not for the prosecutors?
Not for the prosecutors.
Amazing. Jeff, thanks again for being on. We should definitely make this some type of series because there's going to be more to come as the bill goes through and becomes official. And real quick, again, if somebody wants to book you for a public speaking event or find out more information, how can they contact you?
Sure. They can email me through my website. It's www.deskovic.org. That's DESKOVIC.org. So I have a public figure page on Facebook. Just people type my name in, Jeffrey Deskovic. And you can follow me, keep up there. So I always post when I have speaking engagements there. I post that media cover, radio, television, print media interviews, and new media that I appear in. I post on there, and I post through my sagas of law school, different photographs as I pass through different milestones. I post some personal photos as well. So a lot of people like to keep up with me. So I'm close to 5,000 people on my personal profile. So that's hence I started the public figure page, so people can still follow me. I post on one, I post on the other.
Great. And you can also find information about Jeff on the show website, 360degrees-to-success.com as well. So, Jeff, thanks again. Thanks for tuning in. See everybody again next week on 360 Degrees to Success. Take care.